Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. In today's video, we'll be separating clumps. Now usually this is the best way to multiply your succulents, but there are certain things you need to understand. Now a lot of people, what I have seen, they tend to DM me when they freshly purchase their succulents online, and a lot of them want to immediately separate their clumps because they want to increase the collection. But always remember, when you get your succulents in mail, do not separate them right away because as we all know, the succulent needs to acclimate. So let the succulent be together when you get it. At times you're lucky, you tend to get a succulent with clump. But always remember, do not separate them right then and there. You have to let them acclimate and get adjusted to the new environment. A lot of times, as you can see over here, the leaves will start turning yellow because this is a process of acclimation. They're getting acclimated to the new environment. So you have to let them get acclimated completely. Probably after a month or so, you can separate the clumps. It's okay if you have already put them in the pot. You can very gently separate them. Before that, you can just take out all the dry leaves so that it can be much visible for you to separate the stems. Now a lot of times you might not get the stem with the roots, which is absolutely fine. Like over here, as you can see, only one of them, only one stem has the roots, whereas the other two are just connected to the stem without the roots, which is absolutely fine. All you have to do is just go ahead and cut off the stem. So now over here I have the stem. So I'm just going to carefully cut off the stem here. So we have the first one separated, and then we have the second one over here. So we are done. Now this one I'm going to leave it as it is because it already has roots. So I'm going to put it back into the soil because it has roots. Whereas the other two, I am going to let them callus. Now this is the same process that we do for separating of the offsets. It is the same process. Try to take out all those dry leaves. If you do not have a very evident stem, you can take off the lower leaves. You can just take off the lower leaves like this so that you have more stem area. And that's all about it. You can just keep it aside for it to callus. Now either you can let it air root or you can put it in soil after 2 to 3 days once the callus period is over. So we have 3 over here. Now at times you might have some succulents that are very closely connected or which are very compact. So here you have to be extremely careful. Very gently try to separate it with your hand and it will get separated very easily. Now this was a very good option because they were very closely connected. They also had the roots connected as well. So in this portion it is a much better option because over here the roots were connected with the stem. So over here we have 2 plants that are ready with roots. Over here we do not need to be worried. The only thing that we have to follow is the callus period, because as you can see, this is the cut portion which should not come in contact with water. However, there are roots present, so we do not have to wait for the roots, but we have to wait for the succulent to callus. So again, this will take another 2 to 3 days. Once they are calloused, I will put them into the soil because I don't have to be worried. The roots are already present. I will put them in the soil. Again, I will not water them right away. I will again wait for another 2 to 3 days because the succulent, even though it has callus, it has now to get adjusted in the new soil. So total, it is going to be without water for, let's say for a week, it's going to be without water. 2 to 3 days for it to callus, another 2 to 3 days for it to get adjusted in the soil. Never water immediately because one is that the succulent is not calloused. Secondly, the succulent has not got adjusted in the new soil, so you have to be extremely careful about it. You have to let the succulent acclimate in the new soil mix. Here again I have another clump, but over here as you can see there are a lot of dry leaves. Always clear the dry leaves first before separating the clump. This will give you a much better clear vision of where you need to cut. Now over here I have this small one which I'm not going to be separating because it's still very small and fragile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the larger heads very gently. Over here you don't need a cutting material, but try to very gently separate it so that you have a good amount of roots along with the separated portion. Take off all of the dry leaves. Again the same process, we will let it callus because there are cuts. These are open wounds, we do not want that to come in contact with water. If it comes in contact with water or moisture, there is a high chance or high risk of it getting rotted. Now if you want, you can apply some dry cinnamon powder. Again, that is just optional. If you want, if you're very worried about it getting infected with some mold or fungus or getting infected with some kind of fungal attack, you can always go for cinnamon powder, but again that is optional. So I'm going to leave this clump, I'm going to leave this pup along with this plant. I'm not going to separate it because it's still very small. Even though it has a long evident stem, I will still let it stay with the plant. Probably I will separate it later once it looks a little bit more fuller. Right now it looks like it's still struggling, so I'm going to leave it aside. So never pull out a struggling pup, always let it stay wherever it is. You do not want to disturb it. Again over here you can see there is a tiny little pup, which again I'm going to leave it as it is, but very carefully I will clear out all the dry leaves. It's very important to clear the dry leaves, especially when you have a good chance. Now you have to be very careful because you can see the stem of this pup is very fragile, very thin, so you do not want to break that. So very carefully I'll clear all of the dry leaves. You can even use tweezers, but you have to be extremely careful. And you can see it has a good amount of roots. So, and this is the cut part which has to be protected from any kind of moisture. So I'm going to let them be here for few days, 2 to 3 days. So all of them are going to be here for 2 to 3 days for them to dry up, and then I will move them into the soil. However, these two that I have, I will wait for them to air root, whereas the others have roots, so they will get into the soil very soon. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.